morning, I'm Luca Giberti and I'm the Sales Director of IMA Coffee Petroncini. Today we're going to talk about all the activities we need to do in order to start up or expand your existing business. All the coffee change from bean to cups is very articulated and starting from the green coffee knowledge you should have, so which type of coffee and how you blend in, starting then the complex process of the roasting, so how you want to treat this coffee, and then finally goes to a grinding if you want to do a ground coffee. This is also a very important part. Before to start evaluate your business, we should divide the topics in two, the business area and the facility area. For the business area, first we need to know which kind of final customer you will have, like distributor, small grocery, GDO, e-commerce, etc. And then we have to decide which kind of final product I will commercialize, roasted beans or ground. And if it's both, which is the percentages, like 30% beans or 70 ground, 50-50, or 80% beans and 20 ground. This number will help you to decide how to build up your plant later on. And also, if we talk about ground, which is the particle size is required. Filter, Turkish, American coffee, or for instant. And last but not least, we have to decide how you want to sell the product on the market. So what will be the packaging that you would like to have? Normal bag, vacuum bag, cans, capsule, pods. Once we have a clear picture of what we discussed, we should go to the facility area. So that means the place where we start to roast our coffee. So the building where we start to plan our production. Main things to do is to understand how much coffee I would need. So the capacity of coffee per year, per hours, per month, in order to identify the right roaster to place in the system. So in case of we want to produce 2,000 tons per hour, 250 working days a year, 8 hours per day, so that means that we need a roaster for 1 tons per hour capacity. That corresponds to 240 kilo per batch. But in case we want to roast 2 shifts, that means 16 hours, 120 kilo roaster is enough. Depending on the capacity per hour that you need, we can have different roasting machine. So we can start from the specialty roaster that have 5 to 10 kilo per batch or 15-20 kilo per batch. That's a small roaster that could be suitable for a small shop, lab or gourmet coffee shop. Then we can go with the traditional roaster that have a convection-conduction ratio 70-30 that are more suitable for espresso and gourmet coffee. This machine can have a production from 200 up to 1,600 kilo per hour. And last but not least, if we're going to go to the industrial sides, we have the modular roaster. This modular roaster, having the heat generator outside of the machine, have convection-conduction ratio 9-10. This allows you to have a very flexible roasting time and different product, because we got a roasting range that can go from 8 to 20 minutes. That allows you to make coffee as a filter coffee, very light to very dark espresso. This is helped by this control that is made with pre-drawn profiling control. And then how much you want automated your roasting, how much one your roast is consistent. Of that, we can have different type of control, starting from a manual, but in this case, the operator is very important. So the skills of the operator is very important because he has to check by eyes the color and knows when the roasting is ending. Or then we can have other different type of profile control that control the inlet air temperature. So that means the temperature of the air that we use for roasting. Or best is a pre-drawn profile control. That means that a system that allows you to draw the profile and machine will follow what you draw. That's allow you, of course, to have the best consistency. That means winter or summer or less moisture, more moisture, the system compensates for that. That means high consistency. Around the roaster could have also different equipment that we can start for a pneumatic elevator. So if green coffee storage is not fit in our budget, or we don't have enough space for green coffee storage, we can charge the machine with a pneumatic elevator. This is actually a lifting device that sucks the coffee from the hopper to the machine. That's of course, if we want to pre-blend before, we need to use a scale and send to this hopper the coffee already weighed and blended. And then after roast, we will have a destoner. Destoner is a machine that removes the foreign body heavier than the coffee, like stones, piece of metal, and this is work by gravity. So that means that they remove the foreign body with specific weight heavier than the coffee. As accessories of the roaster, we can also install emission treatment. As you know, nowadays, the law legislation are more and more strict about emission in the atmosphere. So especially in the industrial roaster, we should install equipment like thermal afterburner or catalyzer. This allows you to clean the emission to put in the atmosphere. But also be careful because depend by region, country, every zone has its own limits. So please check with your authority which are the emission limits that you have in your city. So now we have found out what is the capacity per hour that we need. And with that number we should understand which green coffee storage is required. Usually green coffee storage is not required for capacity below 500 kg per hour. But over that, over 500 kg per hour, that means around a roaster with 120 kg, green coffee storage is required. In order to understand how your green coffee storage should be, we have a couple of questions. First, how many different green coffee you have? So that means how many different species you have. And second is how long you want to storage your green coffee in the silos. That usually can go from a minimum of 3 days up a maximum to 1 month. So once we have clear in mind the capacity that we need, we should start to design this storage. From big capacity, for mean capacity means 10, 20 tons each cells, we can use squared silos. Then for lower capacity, we can use round silos. These round silos in plant get more space, but in terms of cleanness are much better because they don't have angles. And then for medium small size, we can use polygonal shapes. These ones are the best in terms of space efficiency. For example, if we want 6 to 8 cells and a capacity storage of around 15-20 tons, we can have a polygonal silos with diameter of 3.5 meters with the height of 8 to 10 meters. Under the silos then, we need a batch weighing system. So, especially if we pre-blend before, we need to dosing from each cells the quantity of coffee to sell to the roaster. And the capacity of the scale should be not smaller than the capacity of the roaster. That means if I have a 240 kilo roaster, the batch weighing system should be not smaller than 240 kilo roaster. After the coffee is weighed, then we should send to the roaster. The roaster can be 1, 2, or 3, or 4. And then how we conveying the coffee to the roaster? Usually for green coffee, use pneumatic transport. Pneumatic transport is like a blower that push coffee to the final users. And we can use pneumatic in pressure because coffee is very hard, so we don't risk to breakages. And it's now time to talk about roasted coffee storage. We talk about green coffee storage, we talk about roasting sites, and now we talk about roasted coffee storage. Also here, depending by the capacity the hour that you want to obtain. Usually up to 200 kilo per hour roasted coffee is not strictly necessary, but you can handle it in box. Plastic box, even better stainless steel box, but please remember to cover this box. But over 200 kilo per hour, same concept for the green coffee, we need to understand how many different blended coffee or single origin you have, in order to decide how many different cells for the roasted coffee do you need. Also here, the roasted coffee could be different size. Usually it's not too big, so not 20 tons per cells like we talk on the green coffee, but we maximum around 5 to 10 tons roasted. Important things for the roasted coffee silos is that inside would be a system to full shock absorb the beans. Because you know, if the roasted beans is very brittle, if they make a jump of 5, 6, 7 meters, the first coffee will fall down, will be totally breakage. So we should adopt a system for avoid this. So like a parachute for the beans when it's going down. That's like a system of slides. If we roast single origin, then we need to blend afterwards. That means that we need a blender, a mixer. This mixer is working like another roasting drum. So there is pedal that gently move the coffee back and forth in order to have a homogeneous mixing. And discharging from the mixing, we can wake the coffee again, and then we have to send to different utilizer. That could be a packaging machine or grinders. In order to do that, we can use different transportation system. Or mechanical, that could be a bucket elevator or a chain disc. Mechanical conveyor, there are, let's say, two types. Like a bucket elevator, that is very good and useful for short distance, and chain disc. So that means a chain and a disc conveying in a stainless steel pipe. This is also good for short distance, but is more flexible compared to the bucket elevator. Otherwise, for long distance, it's better to use a pneumatic conveyor. This could be also two types, dense phase or dilute phase. Dense phase is likely called cork transportation. So there is air, product, and then there is a dilute system. So this means it's like a vacuum aspiration, but in this case, inside of the line, it's better to have a control speed. That means if you have a light coffee or dark coffee, have a different speed during your pipe, and then you risk to break the coffee. So having a delta P control, we can control the speed of the coffee inside the pipe and then adjust in base of the product we are transporting. If we plan to pack only all beans, our job is almost done. But if we need to produce other type of coffee like ground, capsule, pods, we need to consider also different aspects. Considering the quantity per hour that we need, we can use a blades grinder for small capacity, and we can use a roll mist grinder for high capacity. And then consider the final type of packaging that we want to use, we should consider also the ground coffee storage. This ground coffee storage helps for degassing. So if we need to pack capsule or vacuum pack, like the bricks that you can find in supermarket, we need to leave the coffee in this storage for a time that goes from 4 to 48 hours. But this topic we're gonna also talk in the next webinar. In the next webinar, we're gonna talk about the green coffee and the green coffee intake, how you can receive and automate your intake in your production. Grazie, ciao, see you at the next webinar.